This place, Ia Outou Manuia, offers a place to land, a place to breathe, and a place to belong. Second Samoa is your home away from home.
Ia ole awa uli nei o lo mafatasi ai ia malefionga ia Tofoitaufa Sandra Sale Vasau Samoa King Young.
Yes.
O se tinafo o lo tauva i le tatu sui Washington o le mele motele toila o whaftai lo fionga Sandra, if I can use your name.
Yes, Sandra.
Yeah. O le whaavanoina o Demi, whamepea ia la uwhana o dad e maua tupe, e maua tamai, ele maua Demi. So this is very important for us that you've carved out part of your day to spend some time with us. Welcome.
Whaftai lava mo le nei avanoa o te whaatalo whātu ma le anganga whaaloalo. E mua lava ona o whaafelo ai atu I lau sunga le whaafiangainga ma lo o tō ofisa malu. Ai whaftai mo le nei avanoa e maue e tātou mafutai ma maua ese avanoa e whaatalatala noa ai mata upu ese o lo e manao e tātou whaatala noa ina le nei so e whaatalo whatu fōi I le mamalu o le au whaafonga anga o lo o tapua I mai.
Yeah, thank you. Le mafuanga mua pe na tai ai la mato dashboard, what announced candidacy for U.S. Congress. Our news team are always looking for these, what we call glimpses of glory. And when you announced your candidacy, it hit the dashboard, and then we started trying to get you on the podcast. So finally, after all these months, we're able to grab you, and you're not even in Samoa. So tell us why did you decide to run?
Okay, that's a o le mea mua lava o le nei whaiunga sa o taunu uai ele o se whaiunga sa whaingofie. Tele masina na o tatalo iai. Awa ele o se mea whaingofie le tu atu lo tangata I lumo le atinu. Tele foi o atu e whai o lato utala ma, subjecting yourself to public scrutiny and especially the impact on your family and your children is difficult. Ai tele yo mafuanga awa o ova nei le tolu sfulta usanga talu ono o tautua mo tatu atunu pe o te tautua il malo tele po le itua o pisingisi po le tatu malo fo I American Samoa. Ai tu fatasi uma sa ofisili lava o yatea o tu fatasi uma mafuanga na ese lo manao lo mana onga e tautua. E be umala vetasi lava le foi upe mawhaiona o tu fatasi ai umame o lo alofa. E tele lo alofa I le lumanai o le tatou atunu ai maise o tatou whanau. I care about the future of our people and I love our homeland. Tele lo alofa mo le nei atunu.
So that presupposes we're on the wrong track. E pe o le winga nai ale na lo fo ne il me o le afai nai ia le tunu a tunu ini ngalu te tele o le afati I le tunu e te lofa iai fo I lo lofa iai. Is that safe to say?
Ai sa lau sa unoanga but ele ngata ile na sa ofisili fo I ona ua ese mai le tofi o le Medicaid. Lena o tautua I nei le tatou atunu o le tuititia ato le se fululua tausanga. Sa o fisili loa. Ia te au lava ia. Le nei tolu sful tausanga ua maua ia te au le atamai ma le poto mai le atua. E tō mai ese what do I use it for now? Hey, what do I use it for now? Awa e whai ngofie lava lo o nofo lava ia o lava ia mlo ainga mawhai ia bisingisi mga luenga e manuia ia lo ia ainga ma mawaia o tupe tau sei lo ainga. Ai whawhea le nei tolus futau sanga o the skills and experience that I have gained over these years should be better put to use. And o a osa tangata o te tanu tonu tele lava le mele ta o le transfer of knowledge. And that is what I did with Paisid. O le mua fuanga tonu ala le nana o to e foi mai ai mai wasingonga i le luafe matasi. Ma fatu la e le Paisid. And Paisid was my purpose to transfer the knowledge that I had gained in Washington, D.C. back to our children. So when I think about the future of our territory and our people and our children, I believe that those of us who have the experience and have the education and the skills to give back and serve our people, we have a moral obligation to stand up and add our voices in building a better future for our people. And that we cannot stand by the sideline. You know, mea ngai e ku e tu mai I tafitafo la wala matongi maa. It's not constructive. And when we have the education and the skills and the experience to make a difference. So not only am I running because I believe I have something to offer valuable to offer in service to our people, but I want to serve. I want to serve in the public sector. Masalo awala na le atua. God has a plan for all of us.
Amen.
And I think it's important for us to discern throughout our life when God sends us that inspiration in our hearts to do something, even if it is difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. You're going up against the incumbent.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's very difficult, and it's not easy. But I feel that I have what it takes to do a good job. I've done that with Medicaid. I've done that with Paisid, and I would like a chance to serve our people in that capacity.
Okay. Well, we've got some questions here that we put together.
You're making me all emotional, Reverend. I didn't expect you to ask me these questions right off the cuff, but
well, I think that's important. You need to ground yourself into why you're running, because it's not easy.
Yes.
So the first question that's on our docket is this whole issue about U.S. national status. Whanaulole tamaititi American Samoa, she's considered a national. Ole ala ia tangata mana na oe e suilmen na a whanaulole tamaititi Polynesian I Samoa e tawana ta ole U.S. citizen. What do you think about that?
You know, le fasili ele o se fasili whaingofia, and I don't believe this is a question that has a pre-written answer. O le fasili tonu lava lea e tu mau mo le fingalo ale atunu o na tangata. It is whainga to otasi out, no matter what I feel, and especially ele whainga se ofisa whamasingonga mai malo tele. This question belongs to the people of American Samoa, not to me alone, and most definitely not to a federal court. What I do believe is that whatever changes, if any, must be chosen by our people and not imposed on us. You know, our record shows the military service at the rates that our people have given to this country demands respect and real conversation about the status. But it has to be done with full protection of our land system and our culture and our tie system. And it's not something that we can trade off to meet some legal guideline. I hate to go into any legal analysis. I won't, because I know that there's been a lot of that happening with the cases in the U.S. and this organization that's trying to convince us that U.S. citizenship is a status that we all should have if we're born in American Samoa. And I guess I'm going to be very frank and honest about it. I support the retention of our American Samoa national status in American Samoa. And the simple reason is that I worry about the consequences of the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. We can really go into the weeds of it, but a U.S. citizenship holds a lot of power and a lot of rights under the Bill of Rights. And I worry that atu la'i mai se tangata Asia, and it's not racism. It's just an example. Po se tangata mai fiti po se isi lava atunu mai fafu. Ai o se citizeni ale a America. Ai o mai fia fai mai o la atu e mana o na mawhai ona whaatau se whanua mai Samoa. A la o yei ia tu la whone pui pui yei. We don't allow that, right? But if they fight and say, oh, all a U.S. citizen, I have the right. The U.S. Constitution doesn't fully apply in American Samoa, but it could. We've seen that at the national level. Laws have been overturned. For example, Roe v. Wade. Laws in court cases in Hawaii have been overturned to not in favor of indigenous, the Native Hawaiian people. So those things can be changed in court. So I think we have to be very careful about how we discuss the U.S. national status issue. And that needs to be left to our people with full consultation and having a full discourse to understand the impacts and the consequences of changing it. So I don't know if I've answered your question, really, but
no, as a Samoan,
I want
as a Samoan, I feel exactly what you're feeling. I feel exactly what you're feeling. E te tawa ona tu'u le mele nai whidi ai le tunu uia. Na o whiwhiringa la le sa whai o dato mātua matua a e whanau lona tangata, US national. That's the status quo. So le winga lalo dala, I resonate with that, but I'm concerned about the forces, the money. I tangata ia tu le ia le mele na, and I don't even know if they know what's pushing that. But it can't be Samoan, because I'm Samoan and I know that violates my agency. And this is afisiti sene tangata. A fio mai inei Amerika po Hawaii talo sanga ilan si sene saini lana waiver, whaiana biometrics, ona velo i masiti sene o malo Amerika. Amo tato wai e tutuila o manua. I think it tawana reserve le melena mo le US national.
Yeah, ili tai mi nei ma love sunga. You hit the nail on the head. O le issue la lea ua whaafainga tā. Ai ole mata upu sa te tau lava ona whaingo fie. Awana a mata mai tangata lai mana o e liu lato national status isi kisengi. Ai o atu e whaafainga tā e tula fono o malo o tele. Ole mea la lea o te tau atu ai. This is one of my platform issues. A whaape whaamanuia le atinu uia te au. O lesi mata upu le o te mana o e maua se fofo i te tono o Congress o te whauluina se pili e whaafaingo fie ile au wala le o tato US national status ia li liu i le US citizen. O le mea mua ia whaavave le whaingo o le taimi e maua i le US citizen a national status holders wa wha taungo fie a wā mele o iai O tātou tangata le na whananau I tutuila ma manua. O peo o whainga le peo ni tangata ese mai isi atunu. We are treated like foreigners and held to the same standards as a foreign applicant for U.S. citizenship. Yet we are not U.S. nationals already. If I would like to see our U.S. national status holders be able to convert to U.S. citizenship easily within no more than 6 months, if and not maybe less, and not costing them $1,000 or thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer just to change their U.S. citizen status, right? If you are a U.S. national, everyone is a U.S. national, including U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. We are U.S. nationals, but we are not U.S. citizens. So the process to U.S. should be easier and faster and cheaper and more affordable. And that is something that is part of my platform for Congress.
Well, good. I'm glad you're on the right side of that question. O te mantuina o soifua ia whale mawaenga. He wrote an amicus brief, first surface ia le mea lea. My filata ngata, I don't know if you remember Neil Ware.
Yes.
Nasau mi ti mamadu te itai. And ele manga o ka whakanga kai e o komeki le US citizen. There has to be another buffer e unique. Ai ma ese tātou nei lo tangata e US citizen. So anyway, so good. Fa Samoa and indigenous sovereignty. Pero sina fesilile. I'm sorry, did you want to comment again on that? Something
No,
else?
I'm sorry.
Did I miss something?
No.
Olisi, I know te pore lo Jamie, olisi mele na ilungo data ke or fa Samoa male indigenous sovereignty. Let me just read the question out there. Fa Samoa has preserved our people for thousands of years through the Matai system, communal land ownership, family obligations, and respect for elders. In your view, what are the greatest threats to Fa Samoa today?
That was a really tough question that I saw that you it's a complicated answer to me, but the greatest threat to our Fa Samoa, and I don't want to offend anybody. It's easy for us to say, external forces, Western values, Western, but ideas, and I think that's exactly the greatest threat to our Fa Samoa is the slow erasing of our values, and the replacement of our value system with Western ideals that measures things based on money, efficiency, and individual rights or achievements. And fa'alave'alaves used to be a mean historically, where we would provide help for our families, and but Western government and us being so Americanized, the bureaucracy and and some of that grift has been introduced into our traditional system of help with our family. So I feel like the Fa Samoa is eroding from inside faster than from external forces. And I think the conversation isn't happening. I look at my 3 children and the conveniences of education has eroded their ability to speak in Samoan, and myself too. Well, tu salave ele leila o Fa Samoa ma Fa Samoa sho tolua, but ineya so ele o le leile ele mawhaia o whānau on tautala Fa Samoa, but they were born and raised in Samoa. So that's a very difficult question, I think, but I think we need to have this conversation internally within our community and within our families and our people, because Sometimes I think we're in denial. I go to a store and little kids run up speaking in English. And I ask myself, why is that child not speaking in Samoan? It's my children's first language. But maka lo lea onga. Wole koe fia fa Samoa. Lea la wa makukua. Wa koe salamoa. Wole lo le fa Samoa. They're looking at me. I'm like, I tried speaking Samoan to you. But you don't want to speak Samoan to me because it's too difficult. It's easier to speak in English. So I think it requires really an intentional effort on our part. So number one, if you are a parent who speaks in Samoan, speak Samoan in the home and to our children. Don't be, complacent in thinking English is easier to use. And of course, English is easier to use. But I think in Samoan and I speak in Samoan. And sometimes I have to stop myself and speak mainly in English. But I think as I grow older, I'm realizing this. Did I think in Samoan, and I want to intentionally use Samoan to my children. So it's gotten to a point where I'm like, well, then you don't get what you need if you don't understand what mom's talking about. But there's a great imbalance. There's a great imbalance of the values of the Fa Samoa to Western values. Communal support, communal life to individualism. And I think we need to always put wa'ol Samoa mua lava. And our values of respect, of empathy, of kindness, generosity, and alofa male sosoani, male auf sosoani utatokanga. Those are our values. Those are our values that we always need to put first in how we conduct ourselves. And not about not the Western values is me first. I'm gonna win that. I'm gonna get that. We're gonna, pay your taxes, pay your dues, pay all these things that you need to do. And, what's the profit for me? If I give you something, what am I gonna get for it? I don't want to get into a conversation where people are going to say that, I don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of Western values, but I do believe that that's what's happening here, because oleanganga sosoangi, maleanganga alofa, maleanganga faaloalo, o mea sina na matalitongunga nga tatoana nu mayasonga mua. That's who we are. That's who we need to remember who we are. Le mea le watupu o le vafe aloa i o tangata Samoa. O mea nai na hao mai tato tuptuai, right? When we're growing up. And when we are together in person, that is how we conduct ourselves. But o le mea le watupu lunga le social media. It's not le va, e lo tausinga o tato tangata le vafe aloa i lunga o penga tawhailangi. And that concerns me. It's hurting our children. Our children are seeing us modeling the way we speak and the way we blame and criticize people online. I think that's part of the erosion of who we are and of our culture. So, we can have this conversation for days and days.
So two things. O le memo mua, I think it tua ia fo i ele mātou vaenga whai whi au. O wa oisia mea na ova ai o mātua o whai. Whai lea o ngā Samoa. Umana o tamai tia nanui whelela maltapo sa. Ia no maila ia whai lea o ngā Samoa e o oile ngana Samoa, tala tuspa ia o le numela, whai su i ma mera pena. O disinvest la ia le tatu sko educational system i ngai mea na. Tilo i loa ni whaiwhi au whaelero lo mo ni ala to incentives e wha awa wele tu inga ngā luenga. Awa mena le oie nei ale avea iei le incentives. Ia compete ia la o ngā whaiwhi au ma le baseball. Meisi mena whiwhi e tamiti that are funded by the educational budget.
Yeah.
So me mo na melo no lua. A whapela ve ta hofi e ta tau le matai system. O le mea leo o wiloa e fosi ia damaitea o le ngangana Samoa. Wa pawa lea o le ngangana e nuti ia mesina ia datu tunu e te lea datu e nanu I o il tu la fale la pule mai le afa. So as long as e mapope pe lava ia guardrails, let's say, nai mea na la onga whawhaife au ia male matato whamatai. Ia o te loa e maua pel tato ngangana. I don't know if it's fair nature pulanga, but the future generation will see the value in it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, e sa o leila sa nuanga la sunga fa fenga inga wa fu ina ula I fu sa o walu le au Samoa na o ai la sui. Ia waso nei e le lola o fa na sui. But you need that to hem. I always tell them, we need to teach you these stitches that Faletua out taught me so you know how to hem your pants. You don't know those basic life skills were taught ilea onga Samoa malea onga whaiwhau. So I think that's a message too to our clergy to reinforce how important they are in the roles of in their role in the lives of our children, especially in the U.S. where the Samoan diaspora has spread. No nofo tatou tangata I Amerika manu mamau e leo no nofo I ni nu o e fōlinga mai o e kalesia ma lotu lava o le anchor ngā o tatou Samoan diaspora I nui fafo. And I think if we can strengthen that, that would be a good thing for us, for our people and for our children in the preservation of our culture and language.
Okay. All right, good. Number 3 is communal land and cultural survival. Land is not merely property in Samoa, it is identity. O tatou whanua, o tatou mesina, e pe o le fesilina le tula I mai. Many indigenous people throughout the world have lost their culture after losing control of their land.
Yeah.
Do you believe communal land ownership is essential to the survival of the Samoan people?
Absolutely. I mean, no question about it. Because o le wha Samoa, e malama tātou o tangata Samoa na ola mai Samoa o le matai system is inherently tied to the land. And without the land, there will be no matai system because the land system defines titles and the titles that hold ownership in the traditional manner I whanua. So if we don't no longer have the land, I Samoa lava e whesilisili tangata, ai maise tangata e te le masani, wheko ainga tutu mai e, wheko whangua, wheko ngu. O ke sau mai le ainga sama ilo I whangkongo, ia o whangua I o sama ilo, le ngofo I ainga sama ilo. And the thing about that is, if I cannot say that, o whangua ia ainga sama ilo, then what is the point of the title? What is the point of the title? And what is the point of us kaukua, a wa o kaukua, e mafua mai ka ngaka I ngofo I lungo whanua, ala ainga. O me mua nga a whapeke ngofo I lungo whanua ainga, o longa winga, e te tau lava o e tau tua il sao. Tau tua il sao a ngā ua waku whanua le ainga, te tau seilo ainga, ma mawele me te nofu ai ale ai lava ni whanua o ainga o le ale wingot kalanga. Are we going to convert it to a Western concept? Can you imagine Samoan saying o le ako kongi la fonga ma taxes, property taxes a tātou I Samoa? That's what people do here in America. They pay for property taxes, but we don't have that in Samoa because the lands are owned by families for thousands of years. And if we lose that, we lose the matai system, we lose our culture because the matai, swafa makaie, is tied to the land. As a Samoan, why would I tautua to you if I don't have a land that I live on? I tautua to ourselves for identity, because for my husband, we tautua to his sao because we live on communal land. And for me, I tautua to my sao because that's who I am. I'm a member of that family, and we still have family land that someday, if my children ever want to go back to live on that land, they have it. So I would absolutely defend our land rights,
Yeah.
because once we lose our communal land ownership, we will see the very fast elimination of our culture. Land is not property for us. It is our
Mhm.
identity, our memory, and our obligation to the next generation. And
Yeah.
we have seen that example. Every indigenous people who have lost their control of their land has watched their culture unravel within a generation or two. And we're not exempt from that pattern. Just because we're Americans or Samoans. That could happen
Mm.
if we lose our lands. And the deeds of cession require that, as far as I see it, is a covenant of protection that requires the U.S. to help us preserve and protect our land ownership and our culture and our way of life.
Yeah. So that's one way to take your tofi away, to lose your land, either through legal reasons, right? Legislation. And the second reason is economic pressures. Wafata watu ele matai ia le communal land ale ainga fe se lisi iva sfuru iva dausanga is a bisinisi. So those are the two ways e ale ona mawhaiona ona lusi ia le tofi o tangata. So would you protect the land using those two things? How can we assure that there's no unnecessary economic pressure on leaders, so it forces them to lose their land? And then also the legal part,
Yeah.
session agreements. You talked about the session.
Yeah, I think o le mea laua lelei ai le taimi nei ua uma na pasia le tatou fono le tula fono ele mawhainto e whaaliliu whanua o ainga to individual o land. So that's a very good thing that has been solidified i te tono o tatou Watanuu, and I strongly support that. From a federal level, from a congressional level, and this is where I think is could be more engaging with our leaders, is this idea of revisiting our deeds of cession. It's tau tatou toi tilo i le tatou deeds of cession and strengthen that, and to ensure the history of the United States in following through with the protection of treaties and with native indigenous cultures and the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom. They're not good. So I don't think we should be complacent and think that couldn't happen to us in the future. I don't think it can if we are vigilant and we drive decisions and the direction of our political relationship with the United States, which has benefited our people greatly. So, but I do think that there is an opportunity for us to continue to work with the United States to tanga iane i le tatou deeds of cession po ani au wala ese toi whamalosi e le tatou whai ata tau i le puipuina o tatou whanua. Ale ngata i whanua i tatou ala ngā sami, because, this issue with deep sea mining has become very at the forefront of conversations the last several months. And the ocean is part of who we are. And I believe that by inference, the federal government needs to protect that as part of protecting our lands and our way of life. The federal government, would not have the exclusive economic zone but for the fact that the deeds of cession put us under the United States of America. So I also think that we can leverage federal legislation to continue to protect that. And, it all depends on what comes up or what we try to do in terms of federal laws. Is there a federal law that could negatively impact us? I think vigilance requires us to look carefully at laws that are introduced by other people or even laws that we can introduce. But it's always to put and protect American Samoa first. And that's why I'm running, is American Samoa will always be, what drives me to take action that will protect our people, whether through legislation, whether through precedent, and negotiations with federal government. So I think you don't really know what it is that you're going to do until you start problem solving, and until you're there. So I think that's the other challenge of running for office. Oftentimes you're asked, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I think I know what I want to do, but sometimes what you're going to do is going to depend also on what's happening at the national level in Congress.
Yeah. There's about 220,000 Samoans here in the States. That population is much bigger than the one in American Samoa.
Sure.
And it's mostly kids that are born here.
Yeah.
But at some point not too long ago, it was, 50-50. To tele tangata mai poru masawai. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I lift that data point up is because I think we should vote, we should participate in how to mold federal policies.
Yeah.
In Samoa, and that's why I think if you're going to be a member of Congress, you should focus on our community as well.
I'm so glad you raised this point, because it is something that was part of my earlier work in politics in Washington, D.C. I at one point was a political appointee in the Clinton administration. And after that, I left to go on to the Vice President Al Gore and Senator Joe Lieberman's presidential bid in 2000. And in that role, I was the national director for Asian Pacific Islander American constituency outreach. So I worked across the whole country with APIA communities to get them registered to vote and to get them out to vote on the election day. And this is what I've learned. Many Samoans, especially those from American Samoa, did not want to change their citizenship for sentimental reasons, because they wanted to always remain U.S. nationals. And the idea of becoming a U.S. citizen, somehow they felt that they would lose something. And on the second part of it, it was very, very difficult for our people to become U.S. citizens, which is to me a straightforward federal congressional solution. We need to introduce federal legislation to make that easier, and I stated that earlier. And the most important thing, if I can share a message from my experience as a political person in Washington, D.C., is our people need to become citizens in the United States to effectively vote and move that needle so that our people have influence. So if you are American Samoan, U.S. national, become a U.S. citizen if you're going to live in the United States. And if you, I really don't know how Samoans that can become U.S. nationals from people from Samoa. I think they would have to go through the green card process, right? So I think for the most part, for those of us who are from American Samoa with U.S. national status, we need to get over that barrier and become U.S. citizens, because that's the best way you can help us who actually live in American Samoa and in Samoa. So for the Samoan diaspora that is in the United States, if you want to help influence, at the federal level, help for American Samoa and Samoa too, you've got to be able to vote for the president. So I can tell you I'll do everything I can if I am it's going to be part of my platform to immediately introduce legislation to make that transition easier to become U.S. citizens. But you have to vote where you live. You've got to influence, because otherwise the elected leaders in your area, like in Los Angeles or San Francisco, you're not really going to matter to them because you don't vote. You don't have an influence in the outcome of elections. So if you want to help American Samoa because you've chosen to live in the United States of America, that's the best way for you to help, is to be able to vote where you live, vote for president, vote for your senator, vote for your representative, because when legislation for American Samoa comes up, for example, you can write to your senator, to the president, to your representative, say, hey, I'm a voter, I'm a constituent in your district, and I want you to vote yes for American Samoa's bill on this issue. That's how you bring power to our community, and that's how you can elevate the political power of our Samoan community where you live, whether it's in Hawaii, where I'm at right now, or in California, or anywhere else where our Samoan diaspora lands.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Let me see. The next item on our docket is the next generation. So here's the question. Many young Samoans leave for education and opportunity and never return. What is your plan to create a future where our children can succeed without having to leave home permanently?
Yeah, I think that's the key word you use, is permanently. I do think that leaving home is not a bad thing for our children. Leaving home to gain experience, leaving home to get that exposure in the Western world, in America, to see how things are done and to be able to discern for themselves the good and the bad of the outside world, and to gain experience and knowledge that they can return home and bring home with them. So the problem is, right now, where do they come home to? What do they come home for? If you look at the economic base in American Samoa, it's basically a third fisheries, a third local government, and a third in the private sector. But primarily, 3/4 of the support of our government is funded by U.S. federal dollars. So how would I impact that, and what could I do to plan for a future where our children can return home and be successful? Well, I think the first thing that I would do is I would look at existing federal funding streams, which I'm pretty familiar with. But I think the thing that is that needs to be looked at seriously, not just by our delegate, but by our local leaders, they need to work closely together to develop a long-term vision for American Samoa. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is I believe that we need to put in place a long-term and a very strategic plan for our government to work towards, and not for our government to just react. Because right now, and I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, take a look at deep sea mining. We are reacting to deep sea mining. And proponents of deep sea mining are saying that's the economic engine that we need right now for American Samoa. And I disagree with that. Very strongly. I'm like, yes, it could be an economic engine, but not right now. And that's my position. I don't think now is the time for our government, to be, pushing for deep sea mining when the science is not there to support it, because the potential risk of destroying our environment is not worth it. And I would like to wait and see what other countries do, and the development of the technology, and require, a temporary moratorium on deep sea mining in American Samoa. Because when you think about it as an economic, they talk about jobs for our young people. Well, these may be jobs, but the jobs for this type of industry requires, highly technical skills, scientists, and are our children there now? No. And so even if they mine these metallic nodules from our deep sea bed, it's been around for thousands or millions of years. Mine, they're a non-renewable resource. Ngo koe fo ia la yo kampangia ngo mai mine ma ave kupe ma au land me America Samoa la koe fai. Koe su e fo ile si economic engine. That's why I believe a long-term plan for economic development is needed, and we need to start at asking the question, evaluating what does American Samoa have to give to the world? What can we do and leverage? And for me, the beautiful thing about American Samoa is that we are paradise. And for many decades, our government's been talking about tourism. The tourism is the one thing that very wealthy people like to spend money on. We need to do, environmental tourism, economic tourism. We need to look at that, but you can't just look at that alone because there are other problems. Transportation is a problem, right? Building hotels is a problem in most of our lands. If we don't have the hotel capacities to build tourism, that's going to be difficult. If we don't lower airline tickets to bring tourism, that's going to be difficult. So we've got to look at other areas that I believe are going to be sustainable for a plan, and we need to focus on education. We need to focus on education and pour a lot of money in our Department of Education. And right now,
Because I just have a last vision question for you, Sandra.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Do you remember?
Yeah, you were asking about, the future generation and how we can help keep them permanently home. I think it's not an easy question, but I can speak from the role of the delegate. I think the role of the delegate can be very important in leveraging the right federal legislation that will improve and resolve some of our long-standing issues about economic development. I think if we had had a plan in place for the building a sustainable economic foundation for American Samoa, we should address the issues of cabotage law that limits airlines into American Samoa. And we need to talk about the fisheries. Fisheries has been the lifeblood of the American Samoa economy as well as for the territory. So where do we go from here? If we're going to do something like deep sea mining, if we can't stop it, then we need to have very strong voices at the table to ensure that American Samoa's best interests are addressed. And I already, they mentioned something about 1% of revenues will come to American Samoa, and I don't accept that. 1%, is that all? This is potentially $1 trillion industry. And I would like to see if there's going to be any economic benefits. I would like to ensure that an endowment fund or a fund is set aside for American Samoa's future where all of our children will have a free college education, will have universal health care for all of our people in American Samoa. So we need a plan, and we need to work very closely with our legislature as well as our governor to sit down at a table and say, look, let's stop reacting to things that companies from off island, they're coming here to take away from us, with promises of benefits and all this. But those promises and of benefits aren't clear to me. They're not clear to me. Like, make it transparent. What types of jobs are you saying that our children, are they the types of jobs that our children will want? And we have invested millions in laying cables for internet. And I believe that that's an area that we need to look at, is developing an economic base based on information technology. And there are naysayers out there. That's why it's not an easy fix, and it'll take years for us to put together a plan. But we must do something and not react to the market demands from mining companies that want to come and mine our deep sea without actually being transparent on the benefits to American Samoa. We do need a plan. We need a plan, and I have a lot of ideas. But when the time comes, I'm sure that we can see that happening.
Well, I'm looking forward to your run, and boy, I feel o tangata nai e tauna ngā lua whatasi. Ma le mātou community nei wa matanto tele ia tangata Samoa o lambapa au i nei. Ia, le vesea po fe alme alu ele i sala elu susu elfa malama ma ai I Samoa.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let me see, what was the Edifisidi Muli Lena Amaya Vaenga?
It's okay.
Oh, you
I
got
know
time?
I have all the
Okay.
time. I have all the time. So it's up
Okay.
to you.
So let me ask this. Imagine an American Samoan child born today, 2026. When that child is 25 years old, what do you hope will still be true about our language, our culture, our land, and our relationships with the U.S.?
If a child was born now and it's 25 years now, what I want to see is I want to see American Samoa still have control and ownership of our communal lands, and that our culture continues to be a living culture where all of our children from birth learn our Samoan language, and Samoan language is fluent, that we stop speaking in English to our children right now if you have those skills, and that our children, if they want to return to the motherland, return home, that our communal and family lands are still there for them to come and participate and be a part of. That's what I want to see for the future, is that we don't lose who we are as Samoans in our culture, that we do not get assimilated into Western and American culture and forget who we are. And I believe that's part of the problem, is we need to look at our lives and our community and at the future through the lenses of a Samoan person. Not everything in America is good. Not everything in the Western world that they give to us on a silver platter is good. O loo tāua lava mea sina America Samoa, le mea o whaaloalo, le vāwhia aloai, le alofa, le tausinga o tatou ainga. Those are Samoan values that I would hope that we still retain, and that we leverage government as a true institution that can help uplift all of our people and not just some of the people. So I want our children to think as Samoans and to always put, who we are as a people and as a culture at the forefront of everything that they do. Yes, we need to have our feet in both worlds, but we should also need to balance that we don't have to adopt everything that America sits us. This, Western binary, mentality of yours versus mine, white versus black, Democrats versus Republicans, liberals versus conservatives. To me, that's not who we are as a people. That's not who we are as a people. And so, party systems have not defined American Samoa's elections, and the hateful and divisive rhetoric and talks that we see on TV happening at the national levels does not need to happen in American Samoa. We do not need to adopt those ways of talking to one another, not only in person, but online. And so I would hope that our children who come of age still have the values that defines who we are as Samoans. Matausi le vā whialoa'i o tātou tangata, no matter where we find ourselves. Don't forget that. O tū maanga o le Samoa, e whaatamali'i. We don't have to give up being Samoan so that we can be Americans. O tātou fo'i o tangata Pasifika. That's who we are as well. And o le vā whialoa'i o tātou, and our connection in the Pacific Ocean matters to our people that we're connected to in the Pacific Ocean, and to Fiji, to Tonga, to Hawaii. O tātou o tangata Pasifika, but o tātou fo'i o Samoa. And we don't have to give up one for the other. We can preserve being Americans, being Samoan, and being a tangata Pasifika.
Yeah.
all at once.
Whatauman whaitaulo to see le abundance by Diamantis. And the author paints this picture of abundance. And the guy lives up here in Santa Monica. And I think kolisin na mea tato culture e tele e whaulai e whaumasolofi le manuia o le atua o datu tangata. But because we borrow the scarcity mentality, minafing dae na ilo datu isi possibilities e se menga ilo mele present o iluma. And I think you touched on, you're spot on when you say that about our people. We don't need economic. We don't need that. That those other extra stuff from outside. E define dato amal dato tofi mai le tua. Yeah, I think la fangata I data noanga Sandra e vene ava noe fai au masui o matu te fono ma le pa i lau I le kalisia second Samoan multi le toila whaftai nor whaaf no ino daimi lau te talo Emmanuel campaign. And we will circle back before the election and get your feedback on how it's going. E mabatu fo inai inside Smile Datu community nei. Ia e whaftai lava ma Emmanuel ia the total mango to nei aso.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for your time, and thank you to the Second Samoan Church of Tailava Molenea Vanofa Auro Mawaise ta singa mal mole trai foi se fa matalanga ile nei tu mal fa moi moi ai ia fa manuia lava for fangole nei yaso. God bless you and thank you so much for everything that you do in our community and your contributions that have uplifted the lives of thousands of our people where you are. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge your contributions to our community. And thank you for giving me time to share a little bit about myself with you today. Whamanuia fo'ile kalesia, malu lau lau, and our community there in Southern California.
Okay, whaftai.
Thank you for spending time with us. If you found this content helpful, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing these insights directly to you. Ia Outou Manuia.